Yeah, I'm really excited for the space for plant-based foods. Like I'm waiting for lab meats. I'm waiting for these really nutritionally dense but healthier alternatives to what we've always been eating. We mentioned a brand from Barcelona before this called Ayuda, questionable brand name, but the products themselves I've been so impressed with, and I eat them all the time. They're chicken chunks, they're burgers, everything I think is really a step up from everything in the category. And so, before we get into the meat of your book, if you will, are you seeing any new plant based innovations on the horizon that are maybe coming out in the next couple of years? Because it seems there was a lot of hype in between, like the plant, not plant based, but cultured meat, chicken nuggets and chicken breast and maybe a steak. Like there was a lot of energy around that a couple of years ago, and that seems to have plateaued or die off, or I'm just not hearing about it. So I'd love to hear if there's anything in the space that you've seen that's coming up.
Yeah, there definitely is. And one of the fun parts of being with a venture capital fund and sitting on the side of the table of investing into these startups is that there are literally thousands of these early stage tech driven companies that will tell us anything we want to ask of them because they would like us to invest in them, right? So we can see
Sure.
we can do very detailed technical analyses, hear the latest, hear what's going on, see how their sales are doing, all those sort of things. It provides a really interesting vantage point. And yes, tons of really interesting things moving forward from the technology side that have not yet hit the market, but will in the coming years. I mean, just to give like a few examples of that, you mentioned cultivated meat or real meat protein grown from animal cells. There's some companies that have gotten really shockingly wonderful price reductions, with price being kind of the main um,
Yeah.
challenge with those products historically, because they started with a very high price point. Cost curve has been coming down, but there's some companies that have really, really dropped that cost curve and getting to extremely low price points for that. And I think that's super exciting because what that means is these products will be able to be closer to price parity with conventional meats or maybe higher quality conventional meats in a much shorter period of time. For example, we have a portfolio company, Mission Barns, that recently got US FDA approval to start selling, and they're going to be selling cultivated meat products in grocery stores and restaurants this summer. We have another
Amazing.
one. Yeah, and we have another one, Clever Carnivore, that's gotten to some, based out of Chicago, that's gotten to some really wonderful low cost of production. That's it's going to be a couple of years still before they're in market and have approval to sell, but they're going to be able to start with a really low price point on their products. So there's interesting things like that. One other random example, we have a company that is producing meat proteins via fermentation. This
Yeah.
process that's very common in the food system now, even though most people don't know it. So, for example, if you went out after our chat today and got a vanilla cupcake, be it in Barcelona, in the US, kind of most places in the world, 100 years ago, the vanilla in that cupcake would have come from a vanilla bean, probably from Africa. But today, most vanilla in the global supply chain does not come from that sort of source. Rather, it's produced via fermentation in kind of large stainless steel tanks that look like beer breweries. You can produce a lot of things via fermentation, including meat proteins and dairy proteins and so forth. And so we have one company in our fund one called Bond, based out of Colorado, that produces real meat proteins from fermentation for the pet food sector. So think your dog kibble dog treats or cat food
Yeah.
in the future. And the meat in there, it is real protein, real chicken protein or lamb protein or similar, but it is coming not from an animal that was raised and probably suffered a lot of harm and was killed, but rather real meat
Right.
protein produced in fermentation. And they're already at extremely, extremely low price points that work well for major pet food manufacturers. So those are just a couple examples. Ton of interesting stuff out there, even if it's
Yeah.
not in headlines and on grocery store shelves just yet.